So we gotta be mindful of what we label as mental health issues in this hour, right? It's awesome that we are moving along this journey of mental health awareness and we're talking about problems and we're seeking help and we're getting to solutions and we're getting rid of stigma and it's becoming normalized. But we have to be very careful because there's a fine line, in my opinion, between like a true mental health issue and other things. And what I'm finding to be happening right now is other things that are far more insidious being labeled as mental health problems, right? Being written off as the answers for things that are, in my opinion, not that, right? If you are in an abusive relationship and you're constantly being emotionally, psychologically destroyed, that's going to deteriorate your mental health. But I wouldn't call that a mental health issue. That's an issue of domestic violence that thereby destroyed your mental health, right? You were a mentally healthy person before it happened, and had that not happened, you would have been a mentally healthy person. And I think that's the way that we really need to be looking at it, right? If everything else, right, all other variables are normal, do you still have these emotional, psychological problems? If the answer is no, it's not a mental health issue. The issue is whatever's going on that's deteriorating your mental health. And I'm seeing a lot of stories coming up in this hour that are exactly that. There are things that are going on that are absolutely positively destructive, that are creating emotional, psychological problems for people, and then it's being written off as, oh, they had a mental health problem, they were suffering from mental health. And it's like, well, were they really suffering from mental health issues? Right? And what brought this up for me today and what inspired me to speak on this was the woman from Lincoln University who took her life. I believe her name was Bonnie. I can't think of her last name right now. But that story has red flags all over it as far as I'm concerned, right? Workplaces like to push people out, and in order to prevent, all of the issues that come up with firing a person and, having to pay unemployment and just that whole process, they'll position you to leave, to just make the choice yourself and go, right? I think they're calling it quiet firing now is, I think, one of the terms that I saw. But yeah, when that happens, it's usually not like a chronic. I've had it happen before, so it's usually not something that's chronic and so acute that you will want to take your own life, right? It's just like you start to see the paper trail being created. You start to see, you know, the other signs being called into the office, having every little thing you do, be watched or scrutinized and given feedback on, and like all of those things. Those are not things that in my opinion, that would make a person want to say, I don't want to be on earth anymore. And yeah, it's like the fact that it got to that point says to me that there was something more at play, that there's something deeper there. And targeting, right? What comes with targeting a person is a totally different ball game. Not the same as, an organization trying to push you out. That entails so much more. And so when I look at that story, it's like, well, did she have a history of having mental health problems? Like, was there a history of her being the type of person who struggled in that way? Like, the interview doesn't mention any of that. It doesn't mention, like, oh, well, and they only interviewed one family member, which was also interesting for me. And that one family member, none of the friends, they don't talk about any of that. They talk about her being, you know, bubbly and vivacious and other things. And so when I look at that, it's just like she talks about being bullied, right? To what degree was this bullying taking place that you would want to leave the earth? Now, what I know about being targeted is that the whole point of being targeted is designed to create that outcome, the outcome that she had for her life, right? That's the goal, to get you there. And so, and and not only to get you there, but to get you there and then to call it a mental health issue, to make it look like, right, you were just not able to deal with being alive and being on the earth. And so it's like, if she was being systemically targeted, if there was organized harassment going on, that's something altogether different. That's something altogether different, and a different story needs to be told. A completely different story needs to be told. And when I look at that story, that's what comes up for me. That's kind of what I see, where it's like you've gotten to this place in your life and in your career, and the fact that this job doesn't want you there is enough for you to say, I don't want to be here anymore. Mm-mm. Nope. So I don't believe they spoke about the results of the independent investigation. But what we know about being targeted is it's a 24-hour operation. It's something that's designed to literally corrode your emotional, psychological well-being. And that can literally, tear a person down to the point where they would say, you know what, I don't even want to do this no more. So it's like, yeah, we gotta operate from a place of discernment in this hour. Like, we have to absolutely positively not just jump to conclusions and like throw everything in one box. Like, I really, as someone who advocates for mental health, like, I hate to see that. I hate to see it being abused in the way that it's abused, because it's taking things that are not mental health and making them mental health doesn't help mental health. Doesn't help the mental health movement, right? It muddies it. It reduces it. If I would even go as far as to say, like, trauma. If you endured a ton of trauma, if you are enduring a ton of trauma, you don't have mental health issues. You're abused. The abuse is corroding your emotional, psychological well-being. You're not just struggling for no reason, right? You're not just struggling without any cause. It's directed. And so yeah, like, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard because it's like we want to be able to talk about these things and we want to be able to deal with them. And the mental health journey is still young, it's still in its infancy. But at the same time, like, we have to, I would say, protect it. Like, we have to ensure that, like, it's not being co-opted. That's a form of co-opting. Like, I'm gonna take something that's absolutely not this and, like, make it this, make it something completely different than what it actually is. And it allows bad actors to be successful because it's like, well, I can go and I can do this thing and then I could just blame it on that. When in reality, no, it's something altogether different. It's me being a bad actor. And so yeah, may she rest in power and peace. You know, I'm sure that her soul will be received. You know, this happens, these types of things happen to certain types of people. And so something tells me that she was probably someone with a lot of promise who, you know, was here to do a lot of good, who was here to enact a lot of change, who probably had vision, you know, read between the lines, saw things for what they were, spoke up about them. Somebody didn't like it and needed to destroy her because of that. And so I'm sure that the Most High God will receive her, you know. It's just, man, this season that we're in, like, it's rough. I see the necessity for it, but it doesn't make it, like, rough to move through. It's really rough.